So what's going on, guys? My name is Zero, and in today's video I will be showing you 5 of the best high round spots that will guarantee you higher than round 30 on Zetsubou no Shima. So as always, before we begin today's video, please be sure to drop a like down below and we shall get right into today's top 5. So coming in at my number 5 spot, we have the living quarters area. And although this area may look dark and gloomy with nowhere to possibly run a train or even have the ability to group zombies in a possible area, but you know there actually is. The living quarters is quite an ideal training spot with an overly small amount of room to train, but it is rather simple when you know the routes and the spawns of each of the zombies in this room, and you're also rewarded to an unlimited supply of ammo for a gun that does a great deal of damage, and that'd be the ICR. And as I said before, it may be a fairly good spot for the high rounds, but it's definitely not as great as the other 4 spots in this list. So for now, let's get straight into my number 4 spot. And for the number 4 spot, we have a training area that will require a lot of skill, momentum, and predictability, and this would be the Skull Altar area, just to the right of where you spawn in Zetsubou no Shima. Now, what seems like a fairly open amount of area, it actually gets rather tight and scary with the amount of zombies spawning in at one given time, which makes the training ability quite low, but easily doable if you're an experienced zombie player and can easily maneuver your way across multiple spawns of zombies in such a small amount of space. But there are a few things you may want to consider doing when using this spot, is to keep the door to Lab B closed, to avoid more zombies from spawning in through the back doors, and to try and clear more zombies out, try separate them with the skull pedestal to gain a wider amount of space to train while you are carrying the zombies behind you. And without a further ado, let's move in to my number 3 spot. At my number 3 spot, we have a training area that can almost guarantee up to round 50 and onwards if you can correctly create a path and time your bullets with the Masamune and whatever other secondary you have just to balance out this area well enough. But at our number 3 spot would have to be the small secluded area before entering the bunker. And now what seems like the worst training spot ever, it is possibly one of the most effective and easily achievable high round spots on Zetsubou no Shima itself. And if you can possibly manage to get spiders to create webs at the door to Lab B, this spot becomes a lot more effective with this Masamune due to its chain effect. And if you spray a shot right between the trees and the walls, zombies will struggle to kill you and the rounds will fly right past you with the amount of spawn rate of zombies that come through, and it will guarantee you to get to a good high round. So I recommend using this spot. And for my number 2 spot, I have a training spot that I use so frequently that I know almost each possible spawn from the zombies and a selected path that I'd need to take in order to isolate myself from other spawned in zombies. But as always, a training spot always comes with its flaws, and this spot does have a few, but it's not worth the mention in this video. Now, down beneath Lab B is the ultimate work of a training spot where you have the entire back area as well as underneath and out the front of Lab B, which makes for the biggest amount of training space you have on this map's entirety. And although it's pretty much a one-way route around this area, you can switch it up and create your own ideal path instead of my own, just to make it more comfortable for yourself when having a shit ton of zombies behind you. But all you need to fear in this spot is basically the Thrasher spawns are actually quite unpredictable, and you should be keeping aware at all times whether or not if the Thrasher has already spawned in. Otherwise, you have yourself a great training spot that I would recommend to use for high rounds. And for my number 1 spot, it's probably the most obvious and possibly the best spot for training on Zetsubou no Shima, but it has its challenge getting to exactly this room, and we have the cell room for the Easter egg. And of course, in order to get to this location, it does take getting the entire Easter egg done, which in this case is not the easiest thing to do for all players, especially in co-op games. But for solo players, it may be something you all might want to consider doing for a nice high round attempt. And what's nice about this area in particular is that the zombies will only spawn on the outer part of this room, whilst the thrashers and spiders do tend to spawn in the center part most of the time, but this should not affect your training technique at all with the Masamune in your hands and effectively using those bullets to wipe out all of the zombies in a single 3-bullet burst. But what makes this spot easily the most effective is just the most amount of space you have compared to every other spot on the map, apart from the access to perks, which is a very big problem in this area for when you need to take the elevator all the way up. But if you're in solo, you do have Jug at the very top of the elevator, so this is probably one of the best ideal spots on Zetsubou no Shima. And that, guys, would be all for today's video. If you enjoyed this video and you had yourself at a high round using the spots in this video, then leave me a comment below on what round you actually made it to. And if you could all please leave a like and even subscribe to support my work, that would be fantastic. But for now, have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next video.